What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. Today we're talking about fixtures, the best fixtures for our FPL teams from game weeks 9 to 13. So a 5-game week span, you get the likes of Man City in there. There's going to be 4 teams to talk about. I'm going to go through whether they're worth investing in, what the issues are with that team right now, which players to target, and that kind of thing, and also who some alternatives might be as well. I know a lot of people have been asking about a wildcard video. That will be coming tomorrow, and there's a few more videos that I want to do before we get into the normal stuff next week. But we're talking fixtures today, so let's get into it. Hit a like button if you enjoy it. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. We're so close to 120k now, and let's talk about the first team. Let's start off with the big one, Manchester City, and you should know there's a fixture swing coming because it feels like I haven't stopped talking about it for weeks. So if you've been watching my videos, you know I've been talking and thinking about this for a while. I mentioned about getting rid of Spurs players a few weeks ago. I think more and more people are now up for that given the way the kind of results have gone in the last 4, and obviously now seeing the likes of Man City's fixtures that are coming up. Now there are some concerns with Man City, especially with their league form. They've only scored 1 goal in each of the last 4 game weeks, which isn't like them, right? We expect them to be a team that's going to score plenty of goals versus any opposition. Okay, maybe not Liverpool, but pretty much any other opposition. Even when they scored 2 goals against Leicester, they conceded 5. So there are obviously some slight concerns there. And I've spoken before, their expected goals over the last 3 or 4 seasons has been over 2 per game on average. This year, it's only just over 1. So it's not fantastic for them at all. And there have been some kind of circumstances and reasons around that. Obviously, they were missing Aguero, they were missing Jesus, they were missing De Bruyne for a little period of time as well. They lost David Silva as well, but I think not having a number 9 and obviously missing Kevin De Bruyne, probably or arguably their best player now, has been a big concern as well. So that's a little bit worrying. But then you look at the Champions League, they're putting kind of 3 goals past teams there. You know they can do that in the league. Is it just a matter of time? Is something just not clicked yet? And will it do with these great fixtures they got coming up? So we know it's decent. Spurs away, okay, that could be difficult. Man United away again, could be a difficult one. But in between that, Burnley, Fulham, West Brom at home, it doesn't get much better than that, right? Right now, if there was 2 teams I'd want to be playing against, apart from maybe Everton, who seem to keep shipping goals, is Fulham and West Brom. So to have them in the next 5, as well as Burnley at home, who they've done well against before, that's a pretty good run. Now, looking at the underlying numbers, right, I look from game week 2 to 8 because they didn't play in game week 1, right? They didn't start, neither did Man United, etc. So I wanted to make it fair. The highest expected goals is Spurs. Maybe that's not too much of a kind of red flag, right? They've been doing pretty well, scoring a lot of goals against Southampton and Man United in particular. Is 14.49. So that's their expected goals. And City is down to 9.31, which is 10th in the league. So not good at all, right? And they were top last year by some distance as well. Now, they have played Wolves, Leicester, Arsenal and Liverpool as part of that. So not that easy, I guess, right? Especially Arsenal defended quite well. I know they just conceded 3 to Aston Villa. But their underlying numbers have been okay so far this year. And we've seen the way they set up against Man United. They're not bad defensively, not very good going forward, but not bad defensively. Leicester obviously did really well. Wolves are a good defensive team, although I think Man City scored 3 against them. And Liverpool is obviously always difficult, right? Just how Liverpool will do well against everyone apart from maybe Man City. So the teams have been okay. I don't want to sit here and make excuses for them, right? Ultimately, they haven't been good enough. And when I say good enough, I mean good enough for their standards, right? We expect more from them. Pep expects more from them. And given what they've done in previous seasons, we should be expecting more from them as well. Now, in the last 4 game weeks, they're still only 7th for expected goals with 5.34. But what I find really interesting is when you get onto the whole Spurs versus Man City players, and it's not just a simple case of Spurs versus Man City because the prices are different, right? If you want to go for De Bruyne, he's more expensive than Kane, he's more expensive than Son, etc. But 5.34 is Man City's expected goals for the last 4 game weeks. For Spurs, it's 5.94, so they're not that far ahead. And when you look at the difference in fixtures, Spurs just had a really great fixture run, and their expected goals is not that much higher than Man City. So you've got to think, if Man City are doing that now, with injuries and just generally looking poor, what could they do when they finally turn it on, when they finally get to play Fulham and West Brom at home? And that's kind of what gets me excited about bringing in their players. And you just can't ignore those fixtures that they've got. And even after that, the fixtures continue to be good up until like game week 20. So this is why I quite like them, right? De Bruyne and Sterling are, apart from Mane and Salah and Aubameyang, the highest priced midfielders in the game. So if it doesn't work out, you give them Burnley, Fulham, West Brom. It doesn't work out, you can change them to anyone else you want. That's kind of handy. But also, if they do well, not only have you got them early while people are being sceptical, you've got big points potentially, you'll then get price rises, and you're ahead of the game, you're worried about the next transfer while everyone's figuring out how to bring Man City players in. And I would always get quite excited about a fixture run that included, Burnley, Fulham, West Brom, which I've spoken about a lot already, for most teams. But when it's Man City, we know what they can do. That's why I want to give them a chance, no matter how maybe poor they've looked so far. And that includes Sterling, right? He's not looked great. De Bruyne, we haven't seen enough games from. Jesus has only started twice. He scored twice as well, to be fair. So there are players worth looking at. In terms of the players in particular, so I think defence is really worth a look. Their expected goals conceded is pretty decent. It usually is. They kept the most clean sheets last year. Definitely would be looking at a defender. Cancelo is the one that I like for 5.4. I think he's a bit of a bonus magnet. Good for attacking potential as well. Whether or not he's going to have that left-back spot nailed down when Mendy is back, we don't know yet. Can't say 100% certainty. So that would maybe worry me a little bit. But I think he's probably worth the risk. If you want to go a bit safer, then Diaz is 5.5. Maybe not as much goal threat or attacking potential as Cancelo, but he should be nailed on. And obviously we'll pick up those clean sheets. Or Walker on the other side has started nearly every single game as well, but you have to pay more for him. So Diaz or Cancelo would be my options. And then in attack, I'd be looking at De Bruyne, Sterling and Jesus. I'm not interested right now in Foden and Mahrez. I get it. When they play, they do well. But you see these things with Pep, right? We saw a lot. Bernardo Silva at one point, either last season or the season before, was his star man. For the first 8, 9, 10 games, he started. Then he kind of went off. Mahrez, last season, lockdown, kept starting. Then all of a sudden he wasn't. He hasn't really been this year either. Same with Foden. He starts, 4 out of the first 5 and then doesn't get played for the next 3. That happens with these players. If they play these games, they'll do really well. But I'm just not sure they're worth the headache right now. So De Bruyne and Sterling, obviously the main men in midfield. Really good captaincy options for the fixtures that are coming up. If you go and check all the fixtures for the next kind of 5, 6, 7 game weeks, you will be looking, hopefully, to captain Man City players quite a bit because of the fixtures. And Jesus looks like a good option at 9.3. Maybe if you want to go down to Kane, to Vardy, and then to Jesus when Vardy's fixtures turn, then back to Kane, or just straight from Kane to Jesus to Kane. That could be good too. A lot of people have the thing against Jesus, but he plays for Man City up front. When Aguero's out, he's going to start pretty much every single game. He will get chances. He will get FPL points. The only consideration is how long is Aguero going to be out for. We can't be quite sure about that yet, but for a short-term punt, I really like Jesus too. So Villa are another side where there's a lot of love going around for them at the moment. Obviously, they played really well against Arsenal, beat them 3-0. Did really well against Liverpool as well. And obviously, beating a team like Arsenal 3-0 and then going into the fixture run they have, Brighton, West Ham, Newcastle, Wolves, Burnley, it's a pretty damn good fixture run. Wolves could be orange, depending on whether you're looking at the attack. I think it'll be difficult for Villa to put too many past Wolves, but from a defensive point of view, playing Wolves is not that bad right now. So overall, that's a really, really good fixture run. And obviously after that as well, they play West Brom and Palace. So you've got kind of 7 game weeks of really good fixtures. And also what I like about them in particular is those fixtures come over Christmas. Now, we'll talk about rotation closer to Christmas, I'm sure, but every year it's kind of blown up and out of proportion, right? Yeah, at some point there was a bit of rotation around Christmas, but in the last few years it hasn't happened that often. A lot of the time people talk about it the players are going to miss 2, 3, 4 games. The most you usually miss is 1. Sometimes you'll get a player I looked at Sterling last year. I think he missed 2 after Christmas in January. He only played, he didn't start 2 games. So sometimes it does happen, but players don't miss that often. But what I like about Villa players is they're unlikely to get rotated at all, I would say, and the likes of Grealish and Watkins. They're 90-minute men. They're probably going to play all over Christmas. No European matches to worry about and stuff like that. So they should be good, right? And Watkins on penalties, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Grealish looks good. Target's only 4.5. So I really like Aston Villa, and it's a great time to get onto them. And those 7 fixtures are really up until and after Christmas as well. So it's a pretty good run to have. For me, Grealish is the one. Even at 7.5 million, he'd still be the one I'd want. If I was wildcarding right now, he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet, I think. He just looks so good. He's involved in everything. He's got goal threat. He's got assist threat as well. He's already got 10 returns this year. That's only 5 less than he got the whole of last season. And we spoke about it when they signed Watkins. Now he's got a striker in front of him that can score. Perhaps the assist potential is going to go up even more because he created a lot of chances last year, but only had Samatta and Wesley in front of him. Now he's got Watkins who looks like he can finish. It's good for Jack Grealish, right? So I think he looks really good. He's an exciting player to watch as well. And also, he's had 2 or 3 chances cleared off the line in the last few games as well. So the scores could have been even bigger. Looking at Watkins, I like him too. I think he could be a set and a forget. Now, I don't want to spend too much time talking about other players from different teams, but there are a lot of forward options who could be set and forget, right? I think Watkins, Bamford, Wilson after Chelsea, and Antonio when fit are all really good. So you can make an argument for any of them. The thing I like about Watkins is he's a 90-minute man. I do think that is important, right? If you can get a player that's not going to come off around the 60th, 70th minute, then that's decent. More chance of scoring goals when you're on the pitch, of course. And he's on penalties, right? And we can speculate about whether he'll be on penalties long term, but the fact he took it, he's their number one striker. He took it really well. I just don't see why he wouldn't keep penalties now going forward. It's not like Jack Grealish has taken loads in his career. I thought maybe he would get them, but that first one went to Watkins, and I think he'll probably still be on them. So some argument to be made against him, because a lot of his expected goals came against Liverpool and Arsenal, as you'd imagine. But I just think the fixture's just too good to turn down. And he's going to continue to get chances on them. You know, some people making arguments about them being a counter-attacking team, not going to be able to counter-attack past these, but I just think they got so much quality. A team sits back, you give Grealish the ball, I don't know, and you've got Barkley there as well. I think they're going to be decent. And Barkley's not even really going to get a mention, but as a cheap player, he could be a decent choice as well. With defence, I've spoken about this a lot now. I think their defence has shown good qualities for too long now to put it down to just a bit of a fluke. I do think they are a fairly good defensive team. You shouldn't buy them expecting them to be like Liverpool of years gone past or Wolves last season, Chelsea, etc. But for their price, they're decent. I still wouldn't want to be paying for the likes of Mings or Cash. I think Target's probably the one to go for now. Did say early on that I wasn't sure about him because he hadn't been attacking enough, but we've had a good few games now, right? 8 game weeks, 7 fixtures for Aston Villa. He's created the most chances out of all the defenders. So for 4.5, he's probably where I would go. I haven't mentioned Martinez because I think unless you're wildcard him, you're not going to change your goalkeeper anyway. If you're on a wild card, I like Martinez. But if you want to go for an outfield defender, Target looks good. 5 chances created so far in 7. That's 1 more than Cash. And he's had 1 extra shot as well. So he'd probably be the one I go for. But Villa, I like them. I'm a fixtures man, of course. That's why I'm making this video. I would be happy having 3 Villa players right now. I have 2, Martinez and Grealish, and I'm strongly considering adding Watkins as well. Although, like I said, Bamford and Antonio when fit really do make a good case as well. So Leicester are low-key actually doing really well this season, which sounds like a stupid thing to say considering they're top of the league. But from an FPL point of view, I feel like we've kind of spoken about them a lot, but also not really at all, given how well they've done. And there's reasons for that, right? A lot of the popular picks have maybe been injured, not getting enough minutes. Obviously, in defence in particular, there's been a lot of kind of suspensions and injuries in there as well. So all that stuff to kind of consider. Justin was popular at the start and probably has remained in a lot of teams. Jamie Vardy at times has been good. Harvey Barnes spoken about a little bit. I think his price now probably puts people off, not because he's too expensive, but because there's other options in that price bracket as well. But yeah, let's talk about the options. I think the fixture run looks good. Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton in particular, a lot of people are looking at that. But given how Everton have been defending, who knows, that could be a really good fixture as well. That is in 5 game weeks' time. A lot could have changed at that point. Maybe Leicester will be looking worse, Everton looking better. Everton should be full strength, barring any other injuries and suspensions they might get. So back for the Fulham game in particular, for Everton they'll have their full strength squad back in game week 9. So we'll have to see how they get on. But overall, it's looking like a pretty strong fixture run for Leicester. Now, let's start with Justin, right? Leicester defence is just good in general, right? If you look at the stats from last year, you had the likes of Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, Wolves, and Man City. I think I mentioned 5 teams, but put up six fingers. But do you know what? I won't change that. So there's 5 teams that are decent defences. And then behind that, slightly behind, not quite as good, but still beating the rest of the pack, was Leicester and Everton. So Leicester's defence is decent, and they've had a lot of injuries this year. When they got a full-strength side, they're going to look really good. The problem for Justin is when they have all their players fit and available, he probably isn't in that first choice, even if they play a back 5, because you've got Ricardo and Castagna playing as wing-backs, you've got Fofana, Soyuncu and Evans playing as the centre-back. So Justin has played both left and right, and he can play right centre-back as well. But when everyone's fit, you think he's going to lose his place. Ricardo's not back until December, so you might get some good fixtures out of Justin. You might get the Fulham Sheffield United game, maybe the Brighton game if Ricardo doesn't come straight back in. But then he's a worry. So he's a bit of a short-term pick, but at 4.8 million, if you need someone for the short term, maybe if you're thinking of wildcarding soon, he could be an option. But I think for long-term planners who don't want to spend a huge amount of transfers on defence, Justin probably isn't the one. With the rest of the team, right, when I do these picks, I always try and pick at least 3 players out. It's not always easy, right, as we'll see for the next team. I like Harvey Barnes, but as I've just said, for his price, right, if you can't guarantee that he's going to start every game, and even when he starts, he tends to come off around 70 minutes, that's a bit of a problem for 6.9, right? You go up 0.6, you got Grealish, you go up a little bit further, you can get up to Ziyech. Now, don't get me wrong, that's still 1.2 million more, but a lot of people have probably got that cash line about right now. You could go down to Barkley. There's a lot of reasons maybe not to pick Harvey Barnes. When he starts, he has a lot of shots, especially in the box as well, but he's not the greatest finisher, which always worries me. He needs a few chances to get his goals across, a bit different to the likes of Vardy, who maybe doesn't have as many chances, but does put them away. And then with Maddison, again, he's had a few injuries this year, kind of been in and out of the team. I just can't get behind, even though the fixtures are good, behind a Leicester midfielder right now. I'd probably rather have Zaha, to be completely honest. I'd go there and say it. I'd rather have Zaha. Vardy, I think, looks good. A lot of people have asked me already, should we go from Kane to Vardy or Kane to a cheap striker, right? And I think that depends on your strategy. If you want to pump money into midfield, then you're probably going to have to look at a cheaper striker. If you can afford the team you want and still get Vardy, then why not? I think in game week 10, you've got Liverpool versus Brighton, you've got Man City versus Burnley. You could argue that Vardy's got the best fixture against Fulham at home. He could be a captain option. His underlying stats are a bit iffy still for me. Like, a lot of his points have been propped up by penalties. Leicester have had 8 penalties given in the league already. That's one more than they had for the whole of last season. Now, there are a lot more penalties this year. Maybe that trend will continue. But if it stops and kind of regresses a bit, then his points are going to dry out from those penalties. Not to say he can't get points from the games that are coming up, but he hasn't been getting many shots away in the box that aren't penalties. And that would concern me slightly. But again, if you can build the rest of the team you want and still have Vardy in, I like him from game week 10 to maybe 12 or 13. And at that point, you can either keep him for a bit longer, go to Jesus, or go to, who I think Jesus in game week 13 has West Brom. So you can go to him, or you can just go straight back to Kane when you need to. So Leicester looking good. My only worry is the midfielders, I'm not sure about. The defenders, the Justin is the one you want, but will he be available long term? And the rest of them are just so expensive. Castagna, when they've got everyone fit, could be good, because he's good going forward and he'll get clean sheets. But right now, he's just not an option. So I have to be honest, right? When I do these videos on fixtures or anything like this, and I have 3 player picks, always try and be consistent and pick out 3 players that I want to talk about. But with this team, right, it's been difficult. I've picked players just for the sake of having 3, right? No one is picking Scott Dan right now, right? I just say that straight away. Yes, he scored in the last game. He's cheap, but when everyone's fit, you don't know if he's going to play. I don't know. I like the fixtures for Crystal Palace, right? I do. I think Burnley away, Newcastle at home, West Brom away, West Ham away in the next 5 is okay. But I think from a defensive point of view, you've got Scott Dan, who when everyone's fit probably wouldn't even start. And I'm not even sure they'll keep a huge amount of clean sheets anyway, even with these fixtures. Like, Spurs could be difficult. West Ham, if Antonio's back, definitely difficult. Game week 10, will Wilson be back? If he is, it's difficult for Crystal Palace. We know they're a team that like to defend deep. They're well organised, etc. The expected goals aren't really showing that this year so far. They're not been doing great, to be honest. So you've got Dan, who no one's spending 4.4 on, right? You can get Target for 0.1 more. You can get Balbuena for West Ham for the same money. You can get Soufal for 0.1 more. So no one's going for him. Van Arnold, for me, 5.4 million is just too expensive. If it starts to go wrong at Crystal Palace, right, which I'm not sure it won't, I don't know. I look at Burnley, Newcastle, West Brom. Look, maybe that's 3 clean sheets, but I don't know if I would trust them right now. But what I'm saying is, if it does go wrong, you're not going to give him much of a chance to turn it around, I think. Whereas if you go for a Cancelo or a Diaz, whoever it might be, a Zuma, a Reece James, someone like that, you'd want to give them a little bit more time. Yes, he's attacking, but 5.4 million just sounds like too much money for me. I know he's attacking. People like him. People like Crystal Palace defence. But I'd rather go for kind of almost like a sure thing who's also going to play for the long term and have good fixtures for the long term. Because after that West Ham away game, it gets a little bit trickier for Crystal Palace. Then I'm not so sure I would want Van Arnold. But that's just me. I know a lot of people will like him. Let me know in the comments below if you like Crystal Palace players. I know I've been a bit against him this year. And then Zaha, 7.4 million. I've been against him, but it looks like he's on penalties, especially when Milivojevic is out. His underlying stats are pretty good. They're not amazing, but they're okay. And again, he's got the fixtures. Would I bring him in for 0.1 million more if I've not got Grealish? I could just buy him. Could I find 0.7 more to get Ziyech? Maybe. Although, to be honest, when it comes to goal threat, Zaha might even be a better option. So I'm not sure about going for any of these players, but the fixtures are good. So if you're a fixtures person, you want to target them. I could see clean sheets in those games. But again, I just think, Wilson, Antonio, they could score against Crystal Palace. All it takes is a bit of a mistake. And even though they are well organised, I just think with the amount of injuries and stuff that's been going on there, it's been a bit all over the place. And Zaha, look, I can't say anything bad about him because he's done so well this season. And West Brom looks really good. West Ham could be good. Newcastle at home is decent fixture. So he'll probably do well over this 5. But I just think for the money, there is maybe better options out there if you don't already own them. If you own a Grealish already and you've got a spot for Zaha, then maybe you go for it. But he is not for me. And Crystal Palace aren't for me. And there is no way I would be buying Scott Down. So that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed that. Hopefully it's been helpful in terms of which teams to look to target to go forward. Obviously, you don't have to buy players from every single one of these teams. There are other teams with fixtures that are pretty good, but maybe not as good over the next 5 game weeks. And it's always worth planning ahead. So have a look at these teams, these players, decide which ones you're going to buy. Let me know in the comments below, out of all the players and teams that I've mentioned, who are you buying going forward? Are you getting them this week, game week 10, whenever it might be? Also, big shout out to everyone that has signed up to Patreon, patreon.com/letstalkfpl. Link in the description below if you want to sign up to that. There's Slack access, there's WhatsApp access, early team reveals, extra content, Q&As and stuff like that. If you haven't already checked it out, make sure you do and check out all the different tiers. Big shout out to everyone that's signed up so far. Everyone in blue has been signed up for at least a year. And I also wanted to do a big shout out to everyone that's signed up since the last video. So we've had quite a few, so you're absolute legends. Coriel, Andreas and Richard B as well. So thank you all to everyone that signed up. If you haven't already hit like on this video, please make sure you do. Hit subscribe, help me hit 120k. We are so close, and then we push towards the 125k target. I'll be back tomorrow with a wildcard video, so make sure to check that out. Otherwise, I will catch you soon.